Hello and welcome to episode 5 of Winners and Losers, the series where we look at the tops and bottoms of various lists and rankings, comparing and contrasting. In this episode, we're going to look at a topic which has been by far the most requested in the comments section throughout the years: cities. Before we begin, I do have to quickly mention the difficulties that arise when trying to compare cities. There are basically 3 different ways to define a city. Using the official city limits as the border isn't always ideal, since the boundaries are often quite arbitrary and can vary significantly from country to country. The area within these city limits is called the city proper. Then we have what's called the urban area, which is the extent of the built-up area around the city. And the most extensive definition, the metropolitan area, which is basically all surrounding regions connected to the main city. I've used a combination of these throughout the video, but tried to be consistent within categories. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get started. The first category we're going to look at is population. Despite the aforementioned difficulties, there is a fairly well accepted list of the most populated cities in the world. In 5th place, there's Mexico City with 21.6 million people. Next, also in the Americas, Brazil's largest city, Sao Paulo, only just ahead with 21.8 million. 3rd place we have China's largest city, Shanghai, with 26.3 million. In 2nd place is Delhi, India, with 29.4 million. And finally, in 1st place is Japan's capital city, Tokyo, with an incredible population of 37.4 million people. Tokyo makes up about 30% of Japan's entire population. This is no small feat considering that Japan is the 11th most populous country in the world. In fact, if Tokyo itself was an independent country, it would be ranked 39th in the world by population, sandwiched between Poland and Morocco. And in this case, Japan itself would fall 5 places in the rankings. With a new population of 88.6 million, it would now be ranked 16th. Tokyo's population is equal to the bottom 54 countries' populations combined. That's more than 1/4 of all countries in the world. Regardless of which definition is used, it probably won't come as a surprise that the tops of the lists of most populated cities are always dominated by cities in Asia. The continent has 57% of the world's urban population, not to mention what are by far the 2 most populous countries in the world, China and India. You may have even seen this circle here before. There are more people living within this circle than there are outside it. The most populous cities by continent are Mexico City, Sao Paulo, Moscow, Kinshasa, Tokyo, and Sydney. Antarctica doesn't have any cities, though the largest human settlement is a Chilean town called Villa Las Estrellas, with a population of about 150 in the summer and 80 during the winter. The fact that almost nobody would consider this last example to be an actual city shows us why this next part is so tricky. We've talked about the cities with the highest population, but what about the lowest? Since the definition of a city is a large human settlement, it would be sort of like trying to measure the world's largest pond or something like that. If a city has a low enough population, would it even be considered a city anymore? However, there are 2 specific scenarios where a settlement that could be significantly smaller than the average city can still be considered a city regardless. 1. City-states, and 2. Capital cities. So for city-states, there's a winners and losers favourite, Vatican City. It's right there in the name, so it must be a city. Current estimates put its population at just 453. Surely the least populous city in the world, right? Well, let's look at capital cities. The least populous national capital in the world is, apparently, Jurulmud, capital of the tiny Pacific island nation of Palau. The supposed population is 271 according to Wikipedia, though I can't find a single original source for this number, and looking at satellite images, I'm somewhat skeptical. Within the city limits, it looks like it's just the government buildings and nothing else. Do some people actually live in those buildings? I don't know, but I would doubt it. So we'll take the 271 figure with a pinch of salt. Can we go even lower though? Palau is the country with the least populous national capital, but what about non-independent entities? Well, if we stretch the definition, then we can actually find a capital city with a population of exactly 0. The capital of the British Overseas Territory of Montserrat, called Plymouth, has been completely abandoned since 1997. This happened when a long inactive volcano on the island suddenly erupted, burying half the island in 12 meters of mud and ash. Today, the entire southern half of the island is an exclusion zone with extremely restricted entry. Despite now having a population of literally nobody, it actually still remains the territory's official capital, even 25 years later. For all practical purposes, the de facto capital is Braids on the northwest coast of the island. In the end, whichever definition you choose to accept is entirely up to you, but since we can't go any lower than 0, it's probably a good time to move on. The next category we're going to look at is population density. Basically how many people there are per square kilometre on average. It's simply population divided by area. Again, this runs into the issue of how to define the exact size of the city. A Wikipedia article which sorts them just by the city proper has all top 4 cities within the same country, the Philippines. The nation's capital, Manila, tops the list with a population density of 43,000. That means that on average there are 43,000 people within an area about 1/3 the size of Central Park. Another source, using the city's urban area, which is a bit more representative of the actual size of the city, has Dhaka, Bangladesh as the most dense city in the world. Obviously, with the expanding definition, the further away from the city centre, the less dense it becomes, generally speaking. So first place Dhaka has a density of about 31,000. Although these cities are at the top of the list, it could be argued that these are the losers, not winners, since nobody likes an overcrowded city. There are of course more dense places that exist. What has often been described as the most densely populated place in the world is a small island of just 3 acres off the coast of Colombia, called Santa Cruz del Islote. The supposed population is just under 500 people, though might be as much as 900. The exact number is unknown. However, there might be another, even denser island. In 2018, a curious amateur geographer by the name of Alex McGregor stumbled across a tiny, densely packed island off the coast of Haiti while looking on Google Earth. Unable to find any information about the island online, he decided to actually visit the island for himself and check it out. This minuscule 1-acre island has 97 houses, some more permanent than others. The population of the island, which can fluctuate quite a bit, supposedly reaches up to 500 people at its peak. This would give the island a population density of 125,000 people per square kilometre. Of course, if we want to go even denser, we can look at the most dense part of the world that has ever existed. For this, we need to go back to 1980s Hong Kong. There was a place called Kowloon Walled City. It was originally a Chinese military fort over 100 years ago, and its population increased a lot during the Japanese occupation in World War II. Fast forward to the late 80s and its population had continued to grow decade after decade. This makeshift micro-city, within walls of just 126 by 213 metres, reached an incredible population of 50,000 at its peak. Its population density at the time was a staggering 1.93 million people per square kilometre. For context about just how insane that number is, the whole of Hong Kong today has a density of 6,800. If the whole world had a population density of Kowloon Walled City at its peak, the global population would be 286 trillion. And that's just the land area. The real global population just recently passed the 8 billion mark. If every single one of us lived as densely as the walled city at its peak, we could fit into this small Australian island called Kangaroo Island, and there'd even be a little room left over for the kangaroos to roam around. Okay, that was enough of a detour, let's get back to cities. For this next category, something a little bit different, we're going to look at global cities. A global city is defined as an urban centre that enjoys significant competitive advantages and that serves as a hub with a globalised economic system. The concept was popularised by a 1991 book which specifically referred to New York, London and Tokyo in the title. Based on a number of factors like global power and influence, financial prowess, high quality education and research facilities, centre for innovation, trade and business, and so on. Of course this applies to many cities around the world, but there are actually rankings and ratings of global cities by a couple of different sources. The Global Cities Index, for example, ranks the top 10 cities in the world according to their various criteria. The top spot on the list is New York City. Perhaps an unsurprising number one, it's the financial capital of the entire world, it's home to the 2 largest stock exchanges in the world, it's a major centre for culture and entertainment, and has world-class research facilities. If we count all surrounding areas, often referred to as the tri-state area, the size of New York's economy is a whopping $2.2 trillion. This single city's economy is so big that if it were its own independent country, it would be the 8th largest economy in the world, just 100 billion or so ahead of Italy. Second place goes to one of the other title cities, London. It's the financial capital of Europe and beyond, a major centre for business, and has some of the best education institutions in the entire world. After New York and London, the index also lists in its top 10 Paris, Tokyo, Beijing, Los Angeles, Chicago, Melbourne, Singapore and Hong Kong. Looking at the biggest movers from the top 30, Melbourne is up 4 places in this year's edition, the first time a city from Oceania made it into the top 10. Brussels jumped 5 places, Seoul 4 places, and the biggest mover, Buenos Aires, is up 7 places since last year. Moving in the opposite direction is Hong Kong, falling 3 places from last year and down from 5th place in 2019. Shanghai is down 6 places after briefly making the top 10 in 2021. Another source, the Globalization and World Cities Research Network, gives cities a specific rating rather than ranking them in an exact order. Once again, New York and London are the top 2 within their own top category, Alpha++. Next, in the Alpha Plus category, they have Hong Kong, Singapore, Shanghai, Beijing, Dubai, Paris and Tokyo. The Alpha category has cities like Mumbai, Milan, Frankfurt and Sao Paulo, among others. I'll scroll through the rest of the cities, feel free to pause and have a look at the rest of their classifications. And if you're not happy with where your city placed, well, don't shoot the messenger, I didn't make the list. Anyway, moving on. This next category is all about safety. Cities can be dangerous places, so it's important to know which ones are safe and which ones are not. And let's start with the ones that are not. Let's first take a look at the cities with the highest homicide rates in the world. Now you might think the murder capital of the world is some obscure place that no one would ever visit, but no, it's quite the opposite actually. Millions of people travel here every year. Tijuana, Mexico, which is literally on the busy US-Mexican border and across from the major American city of San Diego. With 2,640 annual homicides and a population of 1.9 million, that puts the city's homicide rate at 138 per 100,000 people, the highest in the world. Most homicides are outside of the areas that are popular with tourists. Recorded cases are primarily gang or cartel-related violence confined to the rough neighbourhoods of the city, although tourists might be subject to petty crimes like scams and robberies. The second place city is also in Mexico, Acapulco, as are the 4th, 5th and 6th places. In fact, 15 of the top 50 cities are in Mexico. In 3rd place is Caracas, Venezuela, a country which also has several entries on the list. Brazil is just behind Mexico with 14 entries on the list, with the country's top entry, Natal, in 8th place. Looking at the list as a whole, 47 of the top 50 cities are in the Americas, mostly from Latin America, but also one from the Caribbean, Kingston, Jamaica, as well as 5 entries from the United States, the only developed country on the list. The most dangerous American cities are St. Louis, coming in at 15th place, then also Baltimore, San Juan, Detroit, and New Orleans. The only 3 cities that are not in the Americas are all from the same country, South Africa: Cape Town, Nelson Mandela Bay, and Durban. Alright, let's switch it up and look at the safest cities in the world. According to the Safe City Index 2021, the safest city in the world is Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark. The study is based on a few different criteria: digital security, health security, infrastructure security, personal security, and environmental security. Just missing out on the top spot is Canada's largest city, Toronto, in 2nd place. Singapore comes in at 3rd, Sydney is 4th, and Tokyo is in 5th place. There are only 60 cities total included in this study, but the top of the list is mostly dominated by Europe and East Asia, with also a few entries from Canada, the US, Australia, and New Zealand. The next category we'll look at is air pollution. Heavily polluted air can be detrimental to a person's health, so a city's air quality should be a consideration for anyone who can choose where they want to live. An extensive list by IQ Air with over 6,500 cities ranks the cities with the most polluted air in the world. Most of the top cities on the list are from one country, India. Of the top 20 cities, 14 of them are from India. The rest of the top 20 are cities from Pakistan and China. To put these numbers into perspective, the WHO recommended guideline for the level of air pollution that is safe for breathing is 5 micrograms per cubic meter. The top 3 cities on the list have over 100 micrograms per cubic meter. That's 20 times the guideline. The most polluted capital cities in the world are New Delhi, India, Dhaka, Bangladesh, and N'Djamena, Chad. It's interesting though, the very same source also ranks countries, and India only comes in at number 5. It's actually Bangladesh that takes first place for the world's most polluted country, followed by Chad, Pakistan, Tajikistan, and then India. Okay, let's flip things around and look at the cities with the best air quality. The other side of this list is absolutely dominated by cities in Australia. The top spot goes to a small town in Kazakhstan, but in terms of sheer number of entries, Australia stands above all other countries. Other countries with several entries on the list include the United States, Canada, Portugal, Finland, Norway, and Russia. For the least polluted capital cities, once again it's Australia with Canberra, followed by St George's, Grenada, and Nassau, Bahamas. It's estimated that approximately 99% of the world population lives in an area that has an air pollution level above that of the WHO's guideline. Now let's take a look at most livable cities in the world. This category features a lot of numbers that are more subjective than other categories, so understandably there is a lot of variance. I'll be looking at 4 different sources that are broadly similar in their approach for this one, all looking at things like safety, access to healthcare, education, walkability, public transport, stability, culture and entertainment, and so on. There were 3 cities that stood out from the rest. All of them are European cities. Austria's capital city, Vienna, tops 2 of the lists, taking the number 1 spot in both The Economist and Mercer's list. It came in at 7th and 5th in the other 2 sources. Next, there's Zurich in Switzerland. This scored highly across the board. It was in the top 3 of all 4 sources, coming in at 3rd, 2nd, 1st, and 2nd. And next, we're back to Copenhagen again, which, from the last category we learned, is the world's safest city. It got first place on Monaco's list, and then 2nd, 3rd, and 8th. Some other cities that variously scored highly were Amsterdam, Tokyo, Vancouver, Wellington, and Sydney. You can take a second to pause here if you want to see the top 10 from each of the 4 sources. Cities that scored most poorly were Caracas, Baghdad, Damascus, Dhaka, and Lagos. This final category, we're just going to call it the lightning round. We're just going to rattle through a few quick stats, facts, and ranks. The most visited city in the world is Bangkok, Thailand, with nearly 23 million annual visitors. From there, we've got Paris, London, Dubai, and Singapore. 6.5 of the top 10 cities are in Asia. Next, the city with the most skyscrapers is Hong Kong, with an incredible 551. The following cities in the list are Shenzhen, New York, Dubai, and Mumbai. 5 of the top 10 cities are in China. The city with the most Michelin stars is Tokyo, with 212 stars across all of its various restaurants. It's in first place by quite a large margin. Second place is Paris with nearly 100 fewer stars. Then we have another 2 Japanese cities, Kyoto with 110 and Osaka with 96. Then it's our Alpha++ cities of New York and London with 76 and 69 respectively. Something a little more subjective now, cities with the best airports. According to the Skytrax Best Airport Survey 2022, the best airport in the world is Hamad Airport in Doha, capital of Qatar. The host of the World Cup came in first place for the 2nd year in a row. Second place is Tokyo's Haneda Airport, followed by Singapore's Changi Airport in third. Tokyo actually has another entry in 4th place, it's Narita Airport, located about an hour outside of the city. All of the top 5 cities are in Asia, with Seoul's Incheon Airport coming in at 5th place. Sticking with transport, which city has the best public transport? According to the Oliver Wyman Forum's Mobility Report, the number 1 city in the world for the 2022 rankings was Hong Kong. The report praised the transit system's punctuality, affordability, and seamless transfers between trains. Stations in Hong Kong are rarely more than a short walk away. The city is extensively covered by public transport, trains, buses, trams, and even ferries. The metro system has an annual ridership of 1.6 billion. The following cities on the report are Zurich, Stockholm, Singapore, and Helsinki. 7 of the top 10 cities are in Europe, and the other 3 from East Asia. Cities are where more than half the world calls home, and the global urban population is rising year after year. By 2050, it's projected that 68% of the world's population will live in a city, so it's important to know about various cities of the world and which ones you might be interested in visiting, or even living in. Hopefully you learned something from this episode. And if you're looking to learn some more, you'll probably be interested in this video's sponsor, Brilliant. It's a great learning tool which makes complex subjects into fun, interactive puzzles. Take courses in science, technology, maths, computing, and do it in a way that you'll enjoy and actually want to stick to. Whether you're looking to make some New Year's resolutions, get ahead with some work, brush up on your studies, or even just keep your mind sharp, Brilliant is a great tool to help you achieve any of these goals. The platform is super intuitive and entirely interactive. You can move things about and see how they interact with each other before picking your answer, and there are always detailed explanations about the correct solution. You learn by doing rather than just reading words on a textbook. You'll make great progress by simply adding the courses into your daily routine, and you can start out with the basics before moving up to the more advanced courses. You can get started right now by signing up for free at brilliant.org/WonderWhy, and the first 200 people to sign up will get a 20% discount on a whole year of Brilliant, and you'll even be helping support this channel in the process. Just go to the link in the description or click the button on screen now. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Happy New Year.